I get it? Hey, man. Good evening. Welcome back to Calling All Beings, everybody. I'm your host, DJ, along with the executive producer, technical director, and my everything brother from another, Money Nathan.
Greetings, everybody. Happy Tuesday evening. Very excited for the show tonight. We've been dying to get Thomas on the show with us and talk about Skinwalker Ranch. We're about to do it.
Oh man, he's channeling right now, baby. He's feeling it. But before he feels it, someone else got to feel it, and that is our researcher of this show for a long time, even though she got a sister from another mister up in here, and that is a study of UAPs. Debs, how are you, Debs?
I'm excited. I feel like my ranch ancestry is going to come out today. Like I feel proud, that it's in my blood.
Maybe she was born there and we just don't know this. All right. And now, last but not least, of course, is our another researcher, and we call her Courtney Connected. She is the cab prospect. She's got the 1% patch and the little sort of, it says Earth on the bottom rocker right there. What's up, Courtney?
What's up, y'all? I'm so excited to be here tonight. And how about Thomas Winteron? We've all seen him, on Skinwalker Ranch with the hat, outside the building. It's so cool to be here tonight to hear him and hear what he has to say.
We watched the preview episode, and his hair looks great, even though he has the hat on. So I don't know. I mean, he could go either way. Whereas for me, I should have a hat on right now, obviously. Anyway,
we all should to represent, but everybody will know why real soon.
All right, so this is what's going down. He is the superintendent and serial entrepreneur and the OG at Skinwalker Ranch. Party people, put your hands together for Thomas Winteron. Can I get it? Amen.
I'm just going to say it. I'm not singing it. Amen.
How can I not be excited after an intro like that? That was awesome.
That's how we do it on here, and that's how we'll do it next time you come on. Hopefully, we're praying.
It's like best ever. I think that's the best one I've ever gotten.
Thank you very much, Thomas. I appreciate that. We do sort of pride ourselves on these sorts of things, on making people feel welcome and having fun, entertaining, and but yet interesting and deep conversations about the phenomenon. So with that, so yeah, as we said, you are the superintendent of Skinwalker Ranch and a serial entrepreneur. And that was particularly interesting to me because I'm sort of one of these guys who goes to Whole Foods and will look at all the different cereals. They have 27 different types of granola. So I wanted to make sure what kind of cereal that you're producing, because I'll buy your cereal.
Oh yeah. I think you'd be more familiar with the term like serial killer, than serial maker, right? So cereal as in multiple.
Oh.
Haven't you guys seen my shirt, serial killer, with the bowl of cereal on it and the spoon inside? I mean,
yeah. I thought there was going to be a Skinwalker granola, but okay.
Special K, right? Special K, Super K.
Protect the rights of cereal.
All right. Let's jump right into it. Nathan, do you want to make him large on the screen, or you want to stay with this format? Uh-oh, I don't hear Nathan. Nathan's on mute.
Sorry about that. So the show is starting tonight. Everybody who doesn't know, Season 5 is kicking off this evening at 9 Central, 10 Eastern. And before we get into questions with Thomas, I thought it would be good just to kind of get us a little bit hyped by doing a quick 30-second promo of the season. So I'm going to put that on screen, and then Thomas, we're going to jump right into questions.
It is no longer a question of whether the phenomena is real. It is now about what we are documenting at Skinwalker Ranch.
This is unlike any experiment we've done before.
3, 2, 1.
Heads up, they're coming down.
What is inside the mesa?
It's like jelly.
That can't be, but it is.
What is that?
The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch. New episode tonight at 9. Part of History's Strange and Unusual. Only on the History Channel. And watch next day on the History Channel app.
That's what I'm talking about. I almost got through this today But with all that's been going on in my life that I'm not going into right here, I didn't get to watch, but about part of it till we saw the couple helicopter guys that were going to go up and do a new type of an experiment that you hadn't done. But before we get to that portion of the phenomenon, Thomas, something I've been very interested to ask you since I've been watching this show for about, I think, 3 seasons now, and I love the show, is I'm very curious about Bigfoot activity. If there is Bigfoot activity either on the ranch now or earlier before, you had 50 cameras, because I know they're camera shy or camera sensitive. Have you had any Bigfoot activity that you're aware of either before you were at the ranch or since?
It's an interesting question. So the easy answer to that is no, but I will add to that. It's interesting that we've had some of the local Native Americans in the area that have told us about Bigfoot stories that have happened we're talking really close to the ranch. And we've had some individuals from the previous eras of the ranch that have reported seeing, big prints on the ranch. But during our time, and I don't know of any stories specific to Bigfoot related to the ranch.
Yeah, thank you. Well, okay. So other than the prints that one of your predecessors found prints that appeared to be a big human-looking foot, but oversized.
Well, see, the thing is they reported a big print, but they didn't give a specific, like whether it was a wolf or whether it was they had just indicated that they were big. If I remember right, it was the stride that had caught their attention, but I don't remember them giving details like, barefoot or I think they just used the term print. And if I remember the story right, this is going back to like season 2 or 3, we had somebody on as we tried to go back through the different eras and anybody that may have information. And I just remember vaguely a story. If I remember right, the stride was like 6 feet apart. It was large. Wow. But I don't remember them. I don't want to add to the story.
Sure.
And indicate that they told us more. I think they just said print, and that was okay. It was left with that.
Yeah, I mean the 6-foot stride. If they saw, and I'm a kind of a junk amateur Bigfoot researcher, and so there's 2 things that you've covered here. One is if there is a trackway, meaning more than one print, and there is a 5 to 6 foot gap, that's fairly indicative of something, because I've seen people try to recreate that and they just can't step that far. The other thing is that a lot of researchers will tell people who are having a habituation thing where they'll come and slap on someone's mobile home or even just their home, is you put up cameras. You put up cameras and motion lights and they go away because they will not allow themselves to be filmed. And they seem to be able to see in that kind of IR spectrum. So the fact that you guys have more cameras than probably any ranch in the Western United States, that in my mind would keep them away. So, but
makes sense.
Yeah, I'll pass on to the other cabbies. Money Nathan, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, so Thomas, great having you with us. I'm kind of curious, and DJ alluded to this. The ranch has so many sensors on it. You guys have conducted so many experiments trying to test various conditions, and you found some anomalous activity. That seems pretty clear. Have you ever wondered what you might find if you took a similar approach to just other pieces of property, not Skinwalker Ranch? I guess what I'm trying to get at here with this question is, do you think there might be more happening just all around us all the time that we're just not really able to pay attention to or able to sense, and we're not looking for it?
That is a fantastic question. And it is indeed something that we've actually as a team visited about that at length. Is it that we're seeing more phenomena here simply because this is where the attention's being focused, this is where the instrumentation is, or is it, concentrated? And I could tell you, so I think we've got evidence to suggest that both statements are true. I do believe, after being on the ranch, I think there's so much going on in this world that we just either can't see or measure. So I think it's widespread, and I think it's pretty well documented. There are a lot of hot spots and strange, or I'll say places where strange things happen across the globe. Skinwalker Ranch does not have a monopoly on phenomena. But that being said, I will say that we've had a couple incidents, and I'll give you one example. Is go back a couple seasons when we were picking up, if I remember right, the RF spectrum was really elevated, showing a lot of activity, and it got to be where I started getting the pins and needles sensation on my scalp. Kind of like when your arm or your limb goes to sleep, and then you finally get blood flow and you get that real pins and needles feeling. That's what I started feeling across my entire scalp. And then I started to feel a slight throbbing start, back behind my eyes. And that's when I said, I've got to get off the ranch.
Yes.
Travis stayed there. I evacuated the ranch. I got in the Jeep and I left. Now, the interesting thing is that as I left the ranch, the further I got away, the less that I had the pins and needles. By the time I got up to Ute Plaza up there in the middle of Fort Duchesne, that sensation had stopped, and it took a little bit longer for the headache to cease. But I know as I got further away from the ranch that it stopped. Now, this is why I feel like we have evidence to suggest that it was localized on the ranch, is because Travis and the guy stayed there and they continued to monitor. And if you remember, Travis actually had a spell there where he started having a hard time talking. He couldn't formulate a sentence, and Dragon took him and put him in the silo, and they were able to see that when he was inside the silo, the symptoms lessened, and when he came out of the silo, they got greater. That was all going on while I was off the ranch. So what that tells us is two things. Is one, as I got further away, the symptoms got less, but we know we know that the phenomenology or whatever it was going on there continued. So it wasn't that whatever was causing that just was diminishing and getting less. It continued. We had people on the ranch that we were measuring this. They were able to show that continued for quite a while. Travis had his symptoms, so it continued on the ranch, and me getting away from the ranch solved it. So in that case, I think that's some pretty strong evidence suggests that in that instance, it was localized on the ranch.
Yeah, great. Excellent.
I think that was better than the granola question, Nathan. I really do. So, anyway, but yeah, let me go to Debs. Debs, go ahead, ma'am.
So we got to speak to TJ Allard, who was very nice, and has come on Cab a few times.
3 times, I think.
Yeah, a few
Love
times.
TJ.
And he kind of hinted that there are some things that happen to people that are not caught on the show. So my question is, what are some of the weird stories that don't make it into the show that you want to share with us?
That's a great question, and he's absolutely right. It is accurate to say that there have been quite a few medical related instances that have happened to team members as well as other individuals that are on the ranch. That are not, it's tough when we start getting into those medical instances. Now we have to weigh the person's privacy with the science, and there's some of the individuals that have had some pretty serious and remarkable things happen. I say remarkable just in that unexplained. But they were very sensitive about talking about it, and so we always want to be very respectful of their privacy. Now, I will say, I think the show has shown some of those instances that have happened to some of us. I don't know. In TJ's podcast with you, did he ever share any of the things that he experienced personally?
Yes, he told us about
what he brought home.
Yeah, the Frey effect, where he was hearing the music, and he kind of implied that's why he doesn't go to the ranch anymore. And he also talked about his phone getting messed up. Mm-hmm.
Did he talk about any of the effects that he had after he left? As far as I got to be careful here. I don't want to.
He said he went to the hospital, I think.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Yes. So, there's an example of somebody that, and I won't allude to it. I just always get so cautious about talking about people's health care and their symptoms. But I will tell you this. There have been multiple individuals that have not been on the show that have had to go seek medical attention, and some of them were fairly serious, or very serious, and some of them, the diagnosis the doctors were not able to determine what was causing it. It was elusive as far as being able to diagnose what exactly was going on. That's happened multiple times with multiple individuals.
It doesn't surprise me in the least. Miss Courtney has a question.
Hey, Thomas. This is a story, and so I'm just wondering what your commentary might be around the two potential UAP task force folks that came to Skinwalker Ranch. They brought instrumentation to study, anomalous phenomenon. And I guess, according to the story, there was a wormhole or a portal that opened up. They were on the ground, of course, and I think it was night, according to the story. And as they looked through this portal, it was daylight on the other side. And not only that, there was a signature derived from this event happening. I mean, is there anything you can say about it?
Yeah, so I have heard about that. We've discussed that. Short of interviewing the individuals and just trying to get their account, in a science investigation, we're kind of left. We're like, okay, we've got the story, but what do you do with it? Right? We weren't able to get any measurements. And I have to say that that happened, that predated our tenure on the ranch. And we've heard a lot of these stories. We've talked and interviewed some of the people that were involved with these stories. But the one thing that we've never been given is any data relating to these. So you talk about the signature being picked up. Well, we're told there's a signature, but we've never been given that data. We don't know what it was. Eric has, our principal investigator, Eric Bard, has just thoroughly combed through all of the previous records, anything we could get our hands on, because we didn't inherit anything other than a narrative from the previous ownership. Nothing. So we got some stories, but no data. And so Eric has combed through anything to see if he could find any trace of data, measurable. If they were picking up a signature, what were they picking it up with? What was the measurement? And we don't have any of that, and that hasn't been shared with us to this day.
So had you heard that something like that happened because name? Yes. Okay. Because the names are slightly off because the UAP task force existed at the time when you were at the ranch. So it may have been OSAP that happened in that regime. So I'm familiar with the story, and I'm familiar with the individuals that were involved with that. Yes. Okay. Awesome. Great job, Courtney. They're Courtney connected. And look who Vinny Adams is here. Hi, Vinny Adams. I don't know if you've been on his show or not, Disclosure Team, but boy, he's got a great one. So what I wanted to ask you, I'm curious, Thomas, if in all these experiences, I mean, what's coming to my mind is in your 20s, in and around Utah, and working in different areas, you couldn't have imagined that you'd be doing science experiments at this time in your life, which I think is probably really cool, right? But what I wanted to ask you is, at any time, have you gone out of doors on the ranch and tried to communicate with something, or felt like something was communicating with you?
Yes, I have. And I will say, look, even if you told me 8 years ago that I'd be doing this, I would have laughed at you. I came on the ranch purely for business purposes. I had zero interest in this genre, this space. I was focused in on business only. And so, I'll say that, earlier on, and I'll preface that by saying it took me a couple of years before I'd even admit that this was real. And maybe not a couple of, maybe a year and a half before I would admit that it was real. And then to your question about communicating, I think it was first done kind of in jest, kind of mockingly. I've heard all these stories, and people are like, "Oh, it's trying to communicate." And so I think that when I first started doing it, it was kind of mockingly. And I think a good example of that is we had KSL television come out and spend a day with us on the ranch here a couple of years ago. It was right around Halloween, and they sent a reporter and a videographer out there, and they came and spent the day with us. And they brought their drone, obviously, to fly and to get some aerial shots. And this is all they did the report on it, and this is all on their report. You can go search it, find it on YouTube, KSL. But the interesting thing is that this videographer, she had a drone, and Eric we'd just been inside the command center, and Eric had been briefing them on the different things that we'd seen, and he was talking specifically to her about the electromagnetic interference that we'd been experiencing, and how he felt like there was a magnetic fingerprint, if you will, on some of the phenomena. He's been able to replicate some of the things we've seen using a very strong magnet. And so he's talking about this. We go outside, and our drone won't take off. And there's a message on the screen saying electromagnetic interference. Move the drone.
Yes, in the command center, right?
Yeah. Well, this is out on the helipad.
Out in the helipad. Okay.
Yep. So she moves. They finally get up in the air, and then we decide to go down to Homestead 2 and do a shot. And we put her drone down, and it will not connect. And I've got this on video. I videoed this on my phone. She sat there, and we literally tried everything she could think of to get this drone to connect and take off, and it wouldn't. She tried taking the batteries out, putting back in, restarting it, reloading. I mean, you name it, she tried it, wouldn't go up. So we moved it to a different spot, a couple 100 feet down the road, and the same thing. And just again, I look back at it, in my heart, it was kind of mocking a little bit, but I raised my arms up in the air and I said, "Will you please, hey Ranch, will you please let her drone connect so she can get this shot?" And I'm not even kidding. Almost instantaneously after I said that, the drone connected, took off, and she got her shot. And we tell people all the time, it's not what happens on the ranch necessarily, it's when it happens. The drone connecting, taking off by itself was not a big deal. But when you preface that with the fact that we'd been trying for 20 minutes to get it connected, it wouldn't. And it wasn't until I put my arms up in the air and say that. So I've had a number of incidents where I've done that. And I have to say, they started out kind of like mockingly. But I'll tell you right now, I think up to the point now, they're less mocking and more like, I've witnessed it too many times. And I'm like, there might be something to this. I'm not going to mock it because I might end up looking like the fool in the end. So, it's been a journey. It's been a progression. And yes, I have talked out loud out there, and I sound crazy. Oh my gosh, I can't even believe how far I've come. I sound crazy for even admitting this, but I do feel like something out there hears me, and there is some type of communication.
It's no different than people talking to God, right? It's not something that you can see, but you feel it, right? So,
yeah.
And that is really cool to know. We have about 5 minutes with you, and I want at least the other cabbies to each get a question. So I'll shut up, and please go ahead, Money Nathan.
Yeah. So Thomas, you alluded to the incident you were describing earlier about the sensation you were feeling, and I don't know if you've kept up with this in the news, but 60 Minutes did a piece about the directed energy weapons and Havana syndrome, and there seemed to be this connection to Russia with these directed energy weapons. It sounds like a lot of the phenomena that people experience physiologically could be described as directed energy. And I don't know if you've thought about that, or you guys have explored that, sources of that energy, whether it's coming from off the ranch, below the ranch, and we're kind of exploring that through different sensors. But what's your take on kind of the Havana syndrome, and what might be the root cause of that?
Well, I had a severe head injury in 2017 that almost cost me my life. I was in the hospital and my doctors, I was to the point that the doctors called my wife in and told her to start preparing the family for, it didn't look like I was going to pull through. I've been reluctant to talk about that. I haven't to this day. I'll skirt around it. They show my CAT scan at nauseum. And I say that they do such a great job on the show, but you've seen my CAT scan on the screen a lot. We skirt around it. I haven't ever dived into it, but I will just tell you, to your question, go look at the time. My injury, my symptoms started showing themselves on March 4th of 2017. Go back and look at when they evacuated the Havana embassy, the Cuba embassy there in Havana, and look at the timeline there, and then start diving in, and you start looking at the symptoms those people exhibited, and I'll just tell you right now that those are the people that have come forward and talked. There's many more that haven't. And I'll just tell you that I follow it extremely closely. I have since day one, and I haven't since we started really diving in and looking closely at my injuries. So that's probably all I'll say about that. But I'll just tell you, you're on the right track, and I think there's a lot that we ought to be paying attention to that really, really closely.
Wonderful, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I was going to say I concur, because UAP Med was looking at that when I was helping them out, Havana syndrome, and we learned quite a bit about how that worked. There's more to that story for sure, but I'm just going to keep my question quick and simple. My question is, what do you think's under the ranch?
Dirt.
Come on, Thomas.
That's a great question. I think that's the question. I think that's the question that all of us team members have. It's like, what is under there? And I'll tell you, it's been fascinating as we have really gone in and explored. Are you guys on a tight timeline? If I go over a minute or two, is that okay?
No. We're good. We just didn't want to take up more of your time.
Yeah, I want to make sure I answer this question, give it the time it deserves. So,
yes, sir.
As we've tried to explore underground, we inherited this narrative of don't dig, bad things happen when you dig, disturb the earth, and I've seen enough to say there's some correlation there. Whether or not it's causation, I don't think we can say, but there's definitely a lot of correlation to suggest that. In fact, when we do digging exercises, bad things happen. But we see these guys come out with these sophisticated GPR instruments, ground penetrating radar. It seems like, and we've had a number of them out there, different experts, different pieces of equipment, even different types of technology on how they go about getting this information. And they've just been showcased on the show throughout the seasons. And one of the things that is consistent that comes back is that when they do these GPR scans on the ranch, we had Jan Frank out last year, season 4, and Jan's been all over the world. I forget, he's been, 100 and something countries he's gone and done GPR in. One of the most, I would say he's probably one of the top experts in his field. He comes out to the ranch. First of all, his equipment will not operate the way it's supposed to. It completely baffles him. He can't figure it out. He told us he's only seen that kind of interference one other time, and that was down, I believe he said, in Colombia, and they found out that they were really close to a military base. It's the only time he's experienced that type of interference, which I found interesting. But the other interesting thing is that as they try to get GPR into our soil, they all tell us the same thing. Your soil is really highly conductive, and the soil being highly conductive just causes so much interference that they can't make heads or tails beyond 9 or 10 feet down what's there. So to your question, what's below Skinwalker Ranch? I keep saying, what is causing this high conductivity that's in our soil that's causing this interference? What is it? And then we go into the mesa and we find this metal 300 feet into the mesa, for which we ship it off to University of Utah, and they're telling us this is not natural, this is forged. And we're asking ourselves, why is there metal 300 feet inside this dry, deserty mesa, for which we have no evidence of mining in that area as far as that specific spot? We have the U.S. Geological surveys that show, I think it's the U.S. Geological, but we have them back to 1937, shows no sign of digging in that area. And so we don't know. We honestly don't know what's below the surface. We inherited a narrative. I mean, we've been told so many stories from people during the Bigelow era that there was this vast network of tunnels under the ranch. We've been told there's a military base deep down below the ranch. All these things. Well, I'll tell you right now, if that's true, I mean, the area could have been chosen because there's if we've got satellites up there that are capable of seeing below the Earth's surface, which we do now, that can see like 6 kilometers into the Earth's surface. That's a long ways down. If that's truly the case, then if you're going to put a military base or some type of installation, picking some place that's got a high conductivity would sure be a great masking, to distort and cause all kinds of interference. So they drilled an oil well to the southwest of the ranch, not on the ranch, one of our neighboring properties, just to the southwest. I talked to the guy that was in charge of. He was I forget the name, the title that he has, but he was in charge of the entire drilling operation on that specific hole, and he told us that drilling rig experienced so many problems that the entire drilling crew was convinced they were on top of an Indian burial ground, and they actually ended up pulling the pipe up out of the hole. I don't know how far down they got, but they ended up moving the rig and drilling the hole, the well in a they moved it over a little bit and tried it again. So it's interesting that they couldn't achieve this oil well right there. And so to answer your question, I mean, that was a long-winded answer. We've got a lot of data trying to get in there, but personally, I think that there's got to be something, a piece of technology. There's got to be something that's causing all that. I don't know, is the honest answer. The metal makes me think maybe there's an ancient spaceship or something in there, but I don't know.
Maybe it's a crash site.
Well, I mean, it's hard not to go there because all the other. So you're looking, you're like, we know there wasn't. I would imagine if there's any mining in the 1900s, it would have shown up on those first photographs. And there's no sign of any tailings. There's no sign of any roads in or out of the mesa. There's no signs to suggest there's mining. So then that puts us into the 1800s, and you look at the metal there, and you're like, I don't know. Did we have technology back in the 1800s to forge metal like that? I mean, we're talking about metal that is the width of cardstock. That's different materials on one side than it is on the other, and is so uniform. And we didn't just pull out one piece. We brought out a lot of pieces. I mean, we got a Ziploc bag of this stuff, and it's so uniform and so perfect that you look and you're like, what could be 300 feet inside that mesa that has that? So you do say maybe it is a crash site. I mean, maybe the conductive soil, one of these transmedium craft went into the mesa. We've got so many stories of the mesa opening up and craft flying in and out of it. And when I say stories, I'm talking about people that were in the Bigelow era that were on the ranch, as well as I have interviewed neighbors of surrounding properties that are there today and people that lived there back in the 80s who tell me they sat out on their porch and watched things fly in and out of the mesa. And these are people that seem really well grounded, very credible, So when you start thinking about that, you're like, well, maybe if there's something like that, that if there's some truth to that, maybe they got into that conductive soil, it jammed their instrumentation, they got stuck in there. I mean, your guess is as good as mine.
That was a great answer, very comprehensive. Thank you. And for the last question, is our researcher Courtney connected?
Okay, so I'm not sure how up to date you are on this or not. So you can just say no, not, and then I'll go to my second question real quick. Have you gone through Jim Segala's slides or anything from the MUPAS research study?
Yes.
Okay, so one of the things I noticed when I looked at the data that was 22 times the gamma in the sensor data in the studies in the participants. Have you seen readings like that on Skinwalker too? Because I know the sample size or the participants were part of Skinwalker Ranch. So I'm just wondering if you were able to correlate at all these individuals and these gamma signatures or these gamma sensors with the ranch locations.
Well, I'll preface it by this. I consider Jim a good friend. We worked with him, but I don't know, I don't know enough about his sensor package to know how it's put together. So without being able to speak to the validity of the sensor itself, it's hard to say. Here's what I'll tell you. We have seen very anomalous readings, similar to what he's seen. But the problem that we're having as a team, and I can't speak to him because I don't know what he's done on his sensors. The problem is let's talk about gamma rays. We get the gamma ray hit. Are we actually seeing gamma ray hits, or are we seeing electromagnetic interference with the circuitry itself that's spoofing it and making it think that it's seeing that, but it's not actually seeing gamma rays. It's seeing an interference in the circuitry. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
So we've tried different experiments of trying to put these sensors, these gamma ray sensors, in a Faraday cage to try to block out the EMF so that we could tell whether it's truly gamma or not. And as of right now, I'm going to just say that I think it's still up in the air with us. We still can't discern whether it's EMF or if it's actually gamma. So
how about in the ground? Did you bury it down into the ground? Because he was talking about it around people's homes. He was saying they could be buried down into the ground to a certain amount of feet, and it was pretty deep. So just a follow up, quick.
What exactly on that? What exact measurement or reading are we talking about? Are we talking about gammas? Are we talking about RF? Are we talking grounded with infrasonic?
Yeah. He went into it. He did multi-sensor, but he did say specifically that they buried the gamma down into the ground. So that was the only reason why I asked it, if you guys have done that as one of your test measures.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we do have a couple different subsurface places that we have instrumentation. We have one that's called we've got Satan's Pit that's out in the field that's below surface. Eric's got it's Sentinel Assignment Telemetry and Notification System. It's a acronym, but the acronym is Satan, and it monitors below ground. And Eric has multiple sensors. The infrasonic. I don't know though. I'm not a scientist. I can't speak to that. The gamma rays in the ground is interesting. I don't know what to say about that. So I'll just have to pass and say I'm not knowledgeable enough to speak intelligently on it. How about that?
No problem.
I was going to say that was a great question, Courtney and Thomas. It's just really amazing, like I alluded to earlier, that you've gone from ranch hand to ranch manager to associate scientist, and that must be something very powerful, just in your everyday life when you're talking with people and they're like, wow, man, Thomas knows a lot about science, and how to take measurements and evaluate results. And so congratulations to you on just that sort of, evolution of yourself. I'm sure we would all love to, have that opportunity to learn about science and be able to have that knowledge. So awesome. The last thing I'm just going to say, it's sort of a yes or no, but what I was thinking about before is at one point you guys did some sort of an experiment, and Eric went back into the command center and there was something on the screen that looked like the phenomenon projected something onto the screen. Do you remember that? Or am I imagining that? It was a
I'm
weird writing.
not sure exactly which incident you're talking about. Yeah, I'm not sure.
That was the I living incident, right?
Oh,
thank you,
oh,
Nathan.
yes.
God bless you.
So, I believe, Eric, that's a long story. It is
You don't have to.
incredible. But I'll tell you this. Eric has shared that story several times. I believe we have the Skinwalker Ranch Insiders page.
Mhm.
It's a subscription-based platform, but it gives those that are really enthusiastic about our investigation the opportunity to get behind the scenes and more data and more. And Eric has shared that in there. So for those individuals that are interested in that, they can go to our skinwalker-ranch.com and sign up, be an insider, and the other insiders will direct them on where that's at. Eric tells that story, goes in length on it. It's incredible. It still gives me chills to this day to hear him tell it.
It's got to be one of the most mind-blowing things that's happened at the ranch that's irrefutable is how that writing got there, but that we don't, I don't need to take it down that hole. We're talking about the secrets of Skinwalker Ranch on History Channel, debuting tonight at 10 Eastern, 9 Central. So Thomas, we're going to go with Cabby goodbyes, and then we're going to continue the show and just talk about stuff and how much fun this was, and we're going to let you go. But let's start with Courtney, please. Cabby goodbyes.
Hey, Thomas, thanks for being willing to field my difficult questions, and good luck with the next season. Good luck with your health. It was so nice to be able to meet you here tonight and to ask you some of those questions. Good luck.
Thank you.
Debs. The mute button is, Deb's gone mute. Nathan, we can come back to Debs.
Oh, I'm here. Okay. Sorry.
Okay,
I
go
didn't
ahead.
realize I was still muted because I go from the mic. So I'm going to pull out some of my
Go ahead,
old
ma'am.
research into the medical things and recommend that you Google Brad Moss, who did an AHI FOIA. And it's very in-depth about what is happening with what is commonly known as Havana syndrome and how it impacts people. And it's one of the most detailed documents. I just Googled it, and something called salon.com has it out there for some reason. I don't know why that's where it ended up, but it's out there. The FOIA is available to the public. If anyone wants to learn more about AHI, and of course, I'm mentioning this because my heart's going out to you for dealing with that, frankly. And thank you so much for talking to us about that and everything else.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you sharing that with me.
Yeah, we can send that to. Thank you to Kirby Dixon of History Channel. Thank you, Kirby, ma'am, for setting this all up with Thomas. We really appreciate it. It was so much fun, and we will send that FOIA to Kirby so she can forward it to you. And Money Nathan.
Yeah, Thomas, a huge pleasure to have you with us. Big fan of the show. Watched every season. Really rooting for you guys to get to the bottom of this. I know nobody wants to know the answer more than you do as to what's going on out there, and I hope you guys get some answers soon. So best of luck with season 5, and hopefully we'll get a chance to talk to you again in the future. So thanks again for joining us.
Thank you. Yeah, I'd love to come back.
Oh yeah, definitely. We would love to have you back. I want to thank you, Thomas, for all the obvious hard work. I'll never forget. It looked like you were just like sweating bullets when you were trying to drill horizontally into the mesa and trying to get, keep everything together and get some of the samples out, and all your hard work that you've done on the ranch, and also, the sort of development of your science base to be able to assist you and Dragon and everybody else that's gotten involved. It's very impressive. And thank you so much for your time. And we'll definitely like to host you on Cab again. So namaste. Thank you very much.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right. Bye, Thomas. Take care. All right, guys. Woo! Great job, cabbies.
Yeah, great, good stuff. Love talking to that guy. Very knowledgeable.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, you could tell, man. I mean, like, he obviously had to get himself into a position where he would understand what Eric and Travis are talking about to be able to go and execute these experiments and not look like a meathead, which is what I would look like if I were out in the ranch. And that's a process, you know, that's not something that just happens.
Yeah, 100%. And when you have a kind of personal stake in it, like he does, this is not just somebody that is showing up to get a paycheck. He's been personally impacted by the activity there at the ranch, and I think he wants answers, understand what happened to him.
And I think it's incredible that he had such a life-threatening medical experience, an emergency level, which was obviously addressed after it happened, but that he came back. I always thought that was profound, that he came back, kept working. And so I wonder what part of that is like an insatiable desire to try to understand what happened, but to be able to arm yourself after having that experience and coming back to the ranch is pretty impressive. And that's pretty courageous.
I feel like what I'm seeing, or what I feel, is that this is not just dudes that are thrown together to do a TV show or dudes that are local in the area. I believe Brandon treats them like family. I've heard him refer to them as family. I've heard him talk about his many years relationship with the dragon. And I believe that's what brought him back, more so than the science or wanting to know about the ranch. I believe they feel like they're a family unit. And the real difficult part was when you bring in this outlier in Travis Taylor, and I'm sure there was I'm sure they give each other crap. You know what I mean? You've heard Dragon do it, and I think he had to earn their trust to become one of them, because they had already been there and experienced this. So that's my feeling. But Debs, what's your take, ma'am?
I've got to meet Brandon in New York, and he was just a gentleman and very nice and very genuine. I feel like he not only really is curious about the phenomenon, but he really cares about what's happening on the ranch, and he's very concerned about his people, and he's always very quick to like try to encourage safety and caution if there's something that is a little dangerous. So he's a good man, he's a good leader for them. And they have a lot of good leaders working on this project. So I got to give them all props. And speaking of props, Brandon has some of the best props. I don't know if y'all seen his office, like in some of the interviews he's done.
Yeah, I did. It's funny. It's funny stuff.
So I feel like he earned a lot of like respect points from me for some of those. I gotta say.
Yeah, that is a guy that you talk about leadership. That's a guy who's a great leader. I'd gladly go out there and follow that guy's lead, because I know that he was going to care about me. And there's a sort of saying, it's not only in the military, but we did use it, but it's also outside the military. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. If they know you care genuinely about them, then they'll want to follow your lead. In some case, I mean, there's more to leadership than just that. But if they just think you're just a stepping stone for them to get what they want, then they're going to do the least amount possible that they can, in whatever endeavor that you're trying to team up on. And he's done an outstanding job.
Well, I have a question for everyone,
yes,
if you don't mind.
Yes, ma'am.
Would you go to the ranch?
Oh, yeah.
I was going to ask the same question. I was going to ask the same exact question.
Nathan, is that a question?
I mean, I'd go, absolutely.
You wouldn't even. Nobody here would ask. Debs, your teammates here. I mean, nobody here is hesitating. We're going to the ranch,
right?
And because we feel like our intention is going to carry the day.
Yeah, we didn't get to ask about intention. I really wish we had gotten to, because a lot of people say that that's a big part of it, and like my intention would be 100% to go out there and try to communicate with whatever's going on.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I asked him that question, and I was sure that he had. And if something had tried to communicate with him, that might not be comfortable to share something like that. Maybe, right? In that community, Nathan?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think we're talking about something really important about the show. It's got heart. It's a scientific. It's really trying hard to deliver scientific data and results. but you can clearly see that this team has a lot of heart for the project, heart for each other. It's a dynamic thing. It's not a very like flat, just laboratory. And let me get this data. Let me put it. And this is challenging too. And I know everybody on the show here can understand this, that there's this demand for data, this strong demand for data, this data that we can replicate in the laboratory environment. So we can prove something is there. But we also are really familiar with many accounts of individuals that really seem to defy the kind of standard data collection that our science, sort of expects. And so you've got this strange dichotomy. You really can't have I don't think The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch has established itself as a show that is going to have an episode showing Thomas Winterton, talking to the ranch. But clearly that's a dynamic at work on the ranch itself that I would not be surprised. I don't think any of us would be surprised if every team member there has had some sort of quote unquote woo experience related to the ranch that doesn't fall neatly into that data scientific experiment bucket. And I think that's a real challenge, right? This is the challenge that is in front of us. Like if it doesn't conform to our paradigm of collection, then it's not real. And clearly whatever this is, seemingly is kind of demanding us to widen our expectations and change the paradigm that we're even using to try to understand it. And that's a huge challenge.
I have something to share and add on to that. Oh, go ahead, Deb.
Yeah, I just want to throw out there also that people really misunderstand scientists anyway. Like they always envision something very sterile, that people lose their humanity to be scientists, that they're just like all by the numbers. And, like that's not what a scientist is. They're real people trying to figure something out, working hopefully with a hypothesis and trying to find evidence for it. And so that's all I wanted to say about that. Mm-hmm.
So I was just going to say, I met with somebody recently, involved with the task force, and he said that, he had the opportunity to take people out to Skinwalker Ranch, and he sat around and asked all these different people who had been out there, how many people have had the hitchhiker effect, and everybody raised their hand. Everybody raised their hand, which I was astonished I was just astonished by that. I was thinking maybe 1%, maybe 5%, but it was unilateral. So that tells you something.
What do you think of hitchhiker effect, Nathan? What do you think's going on there?
Yeah, it's I think there's a lot of things going on there. I think it's not purely psychological. It's not sort of purely like hard science and rational, like it's somebody that's like some sort of chemical or anything like that. I think it's a much more dynamic. I hate the way that it sounds, because it sounds so mysterious and elusive. And we are even giving it kind of a boogeyman type of name, this hitchhiker effect, and it concocts all these strange theories.
Mm-hmm.
But from what we seem to be knowing or learning about ways in which sort of objects are connected to one another, that we might be connected to one another, absent of distance, so non-local connection between information, then hitchhiker effect could very well be something that is akin to that, some sort of kind of coupling of effects from one place that are then coupled, somehow entwined or entangled, if we want to use that kind of quantum language, to this individual, regardless of where they happen to be. And then there's also, I think we brought it up on the show before, but it's been probably quite some time. There's something called the Philip experiment, where there's like this group of people that basically get together and they collectively come up with this character named Philip, and they kind of imagine what this character is like, and they try to communicate with it, and then they independently start getting information from this character that they concocted. So there's something about I think what that says, there's something about group intention. There's something about the collection of minds and will and energy focus that is, kind of tied into this, what we would call the hitchhiker effect. I don't think we understand it at all, but clearly it seems to be at play.
Could you conceive of it possibly being energy that project as a result of your physical presence in this area, it projects itself into you, and then when you leave, it remains into you, and which makes people feel ill and then dissipates? Do you think it's an energy?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't have a good answer for that because, it partly speaks to like, what are we, right? I think that's the big mystery here is like, what are we that even allows and enables effects like this to occur? So when I look at you, Courtney, Deb, whatever, I'm seeing, what I see, but how much of you is not what I see? How much of you extends beyond just what I'm seeing now and into some other realm, some other dimensional space? We use these words because we don't really have good words for that. But how
Right.
far does our presence truly extend? And maybe some of these places, a lot of our ancient cultures, kind of call them these places like thin places, and I think in the Celtic tradition, they're called thin places where the boundary between the waking world and the spirit world is very, very thin. There's this overlap, this kind of collapsing that occurs, and that's it's just a placeholder language to explain a kind of phenomena that they experience that we would now call something like a hitchhiker effect or something like paranormal experience that is extra normal than what we experience in our day-to-day waking states.
Courtney, is it like those rice paper doors in the Japanese homes, that where you slide the... I mean, you saw Shogun, the original. Anyway, Courtney, are we energy? Or are we something...
Well, I've studied a lot of different energy, modalities in complementary mental health. And so I definitely ascribe to the energy models. I don't think that it's always just one, but I think when you do submerge yourself in those practices, you can feel it. You can feel it embodied within your body, which is like a felt sense. And so it doesn't go into all the descriptions, of, how consciousness feels that. It's a felt sense. And so, yeah, just because of my own subjective experience and teachings in those studies, I definitely think energy is a big part of it and consciousness together linked.
Debs, so that sort of aura that people bring with them into the room, and you can feel it when they enter, and it could also, form why there's sort of a connection with some of these places. How do you like to refer to that? For last comment, and then we're going to get out of here. But go ahead,
Well,
please.
Scientists call that the biofield now. It's had a lot of different names: chi, chakra, other names, ethereal energy. The people talk about it. I can sense the energy within my body, and if you think about it, we basically are very electrical beings. Water, which is a conduit, and electricity, and you can see some of our energy, the thermal energy, with like thermal goggles and stuff like that. You can sense the temperature from another person, there's different ways the energy forms. The spectrum's pretty vast. But I have a different perspective on a hitchhiker.
Please, ma'am.
Well, Com Kelleher and Kit Green were studying hitchhiker, and they talk about it as if it were a contagion, which leads me to another aspect that it might not be. It might be something we just haven't been able to explain yet. That is a little bit like, okay, so I was watching the movie or the show about some of the meltdowns that have happened with radiation, and I found out that radiation is contagious. Like, you can go up to someone who's been irradiated and become irradiated yourself. And when you are irradiated, you can have symptoms like schizophrenia when you are extremely irradiated. So my thought is this might be a different form of something like a radiation exposure. And that's why I kind of lean towards their contagion model with it. And we just don't fully understand what it is yet.
Deb, everyone knows that that's how Godzilla could make that blue flame come out of his mouth. I mean, this is nothing new.
That's true.
It's also actually the sad
here,
story about how the Japanese comic Ultraman came about.
Yeah.
See, there you go. There's precedence here, Deb.
Yep, Ultraman.
All right. All right.
It's really good, Deb. Yeah.
I'm just trying to make us all X-Men, basically.
That's a great way to finish it off. And doesn't Spider-Man, I don't know if they have connection to that. Anyway, man, that was so much fun. So tomorrow night we have Sean Munger. He is Bob Plisk Snake 09 or Bob Pliskin on Twitter. He is a government lawyer. He is also available to represent whistleblower types that would like to come out, consult with him. And there's a team of maybe a dozen lawyers, I think he said, that are in this arena, and he's one of them. Former Marine Corps enlisted who went and got his degree in law and did the damn thing and became a lawyer. And he is a staunch advocate. You know, those of you who know like Rob Sheridan, you know, the Irish disclosure advocate is ferocious. So Sean Munger is equally ferocious. He's the American version of that. And go figure, he lives in Boston. There's an Ireland connection there. So we're going to get to talk to him tomorrow. He's going to talk about sort of methodologies of ways people can come out and disclose and maybe be in a safer spot and shield yourself a little bit. And we'll get into that tomorrow. Courtney will have some things, and we're going to try to, get everybody calmed down. Right, Nathan, from what happened last weekend when people were trying to disclose and just kind of, everybody just take a breath. These people want to tell a story of what happened to them, and just calm down and don't freak out, because they're doing it because they want the phenomenon to be known, just like you.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Something.
Me too, and I can't wait to meet Sean Munger. I've just learned about Sean Munger. I cannot wait to meet this guy.
Sean, and I missed the last time we had him on, so I'm excited to
I'm all jazzed up.
And look, how often do we get to do a back-to-back cabbie sort of double feature? So exciting week for the show here to do that. So we'll be back within the next 24 hours.
Lots of fairs. Lots of fairs.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we got lots of fairs, and we will thank you so much. You guys were just amazing tonight, man. Usually we say this on our private chat. We'll do kind of show debriefs and stuff. You guys just were awesome again tonight, man. You killed it. So, and I'm sorry I ruined it with the granola question.
But serial killer came out of it. That was nice. I mean, that was a nice entree into the whole thing.
And the serial killer, I want that shirt. That sounds great.
Well, I saw one woman see it. I saw one woman see it, and she was like, "That is offensive. That is offensive." And I was like, "Oh, she didn't like serial killer."
Yeah, and I was totally going with granola. I mean, I literally am one of these guys who spends 5 minutes or 10 minutes in front of that aisle in Whole Foods because I have 75 different granolas to choose from.
It's too much. Enough.
And I want to tell you guys something. When you go to choose a granola, it's either going to be, you're either going to love it or you're going to hate it. And there really is very little.
Okay, I got to ask everybody. This is like the big takeaway. I got to know. So do you guys do like fruit? Do you do dried cranberry or blueberry in your granola? Or are you more like nut? No,
Nut and oat based.
Is it bad that I don't really eat that?
No, it's okay. I just wondered.
Yes, it is.
I'm a big like fruit, nut, granola, all of it. But I think some people don't like the fruit.
I think honestly, if I had yogurt and it came with that little thing on the lid with the little the granola or whatever, then I would eat it.
A little bit of sauce, a little bit of jam in there, make it a little jammy, jam it up.
It's like 3-year-old granola.
Look, I got some in the pantry downstairs. There's no fruit in it. I don't hate fruit in the granola, but it needs to be something that I can chew. I don't like when I get the fruit in there that's like so hard you feel like you're gonna break a tooth just trying to.
Yeah, that's no good. That's no good. The hard blueberries are not. They're not conducive to a good mouth feel.
No, exactly.
Folks, you come to Calling All Beings to get your
We need a granola sponsor now. For
Chef's kiss. Chef's kiss.
All right, Nathan, get us out of here for Courtney, Debs, and Nathan. We will see you tomorrow night with Sean Mungers, Bob Pliskin. Be here. Peace out. One love. We'll see you down the road. And we're always wondering what's up around the bend.